We are talking travel trends here at the HX studio, so happy to have you with us. Joining us right now, Peter Yesawich. He is the Vice Chairman of MMGY Global. Peter, thank you so much for being here. One of our speakers here at HX 2015.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about what it is that you do and what you'll be speaking about, specifically the importance of analyzing travel trends and what businesses can take from that.
Well, we're in the marketing business, and our company is an integrated marketing company that specializes just in travel, so we represent every aspect of the travel business, whether it's lodging, destination, airlines, cruising, and so forth. And many years ago, we made the decision to invest heavily in understanding the dynamics of the market, doing primary marketing research to help inform the way we would create and execute advertising, the way we would craft media plans, and so forth. And we've now done this for 25 consecutive years, and what I'm going to share a little later on this morning are the highlights from our 2015, what's called the Portrait of American Travelers. It's the most comprehensive examination of travel trends in America, and we look at certain market dimensions that are beginning to emerge and how those are likely, in this example, to affect the lodging business.
Can you give us a little bit of a summary
Sure.
of that, of what you've found?
Sure. I guess the headline, first of all, is there's some wonderful news for the lodging business because consumer sentiment toward travel is at the highest level we've observed since 2007. So if you think about, that is the beginning of the Great Recession and what happened to this business then, it was really very traumatic. That has all changed. Consumer sentiment, as I say, is at an all-time high in the past 8 years. What's interesting from a lodging point of view is what's really driving that demand is demand for leisure travel more so than business travel. In fact, American adults are twice as likely to travel for leisure as they are for business. Very few people know, unless you study this stuff every day, that only about 3 out of 10 adults will take a business trip this year, but about 7 out of 10 will take a vacation. So what's happened, and this has occurred over the past probably 6 to 7 years, is we've seen this kind of bifurcation of the market where leisure is really driving demand, not just for lodging, but for airline seats and so on and so forth. And that's very good news. Even with all the turmoil in the world, it's still very positive.
And a big part of travel trends would be catering to the millennials.
Yes, another headline that I'll examine, and I think people will find this to be quite intriguing. There's a lot of talk about the millennial market. There's not a particularly good understanding of the dynamics of that market, and we'll share some of those insights today. But I think the good news is that they have the highest level of interest in travel among all generational cohorts. In fact, substantially higher. And we say that's attributable to this the impetuous nature of the millennials. There's a little higher sense of wanderlust and so forth, which is great. The challenging part for the business is that their interests are very short-lived. The term we like to use is they're dilettantes, and that is they like to try some things, maybe they'll embrace them for a period of time, and then they lose interest quickly and kind of move on to the next experience.
So there's some difference in loyalty there,
absolutely.
brand loyalty.
We say loyalty is a fragile idea.
Right.
So the challenges for the lodging business, we've all been raised as to believe in the power of good service, right? So the premise of the hotel business was you attract the guests, serve them well, you're rewarded by their repeat patronage. Right. Doesn't work that well with millennials. And this is an audience that is 84 million strong in this country. There are only 78 million baby boomers in America.
Right,
so
bigger
they're
than
actually, So if you look at the sheer market size, then you add this kind of orientation where they have different interests, and it's driven a lot more by personal discovery and social interaction people have when you travel. And then the other lens you put on top of this is the media lens. And if you think about just the explosion in mobility, in fact, we've coined a term in our organization where there's a subset of people who own and use 3 mobile devices, laptops, tablets, and smartphones. We call them digital elite. And the digital elite today represent about 38% of total demand for travel. And as you might surmise, if you scratch that a little bit and you take a look at their profile, it's fundamentally different in terms of how we serve up communications and product to them than the non-digital elite. So they're concentrated among millennials, as you might expect. And that's another thing we'll talk about. And we'll look at those patterns and how they impact the way hoteliers think about marketing.
Is that the biggest challenge that you're hearing from businesses that come to you looking for advice or guidance or help?
That
is it the millennial aspect?
That is one. I'll tell you the other is the incredible transformation that has taken place with respect to the way technology has driven transparency in both pricing and preference. Let me explain that. 10 years ago, when you were looking to book a hotel room to come to the New York Hotel Show, you'd probably spend a lot of time, maybe call the travel agent, right? A lot of time making sure you didn't overpay, right? Now, you can go to any of a number of metasearch sites, they do all the work for you, you can scan all that, and all of a sudden now the price point becomes not only transparent, but a lot more important to you when you think about aligning that with a brand. And that is, you can say, well, here's some price points for independent hotels in New York, never heard of those. Here's some price points for a Marriott, a Hilton, Sheraton, whatever it may be. And you've heard of those, so what happens is it helps you in your decision-making process evaluate value, basically. That's brand new, and now it's being done very rapidly. So that's one dimension. The second thing is, we know that 6 out of 10 times when someone's ready to book a hotel room, they're probably going to consult TripAdvisor. So they're going to go in and they're going to take a look at these ratings. So one of the things that we're watching very carefully is the evolution of social media. We do not have it figured out yet. I don't think anybody does. But we're evolving a point of view which is really, I think, quite provocative. And I'll give you a headline. The content of social media, at least in the travel business, appears to have more power to dissuade somebody than to persuade somebody.
Sure.
So what happens is...
Right, that one negative review can outweigh the 50 positives.
You see some negative blogging and so forth, you might pause and think, well, is that for me? And you might read, paragraph after paragraph of positive commentary, but that's not sufficient to get you to make the decision.
An enormous challenge for business.
Huge.
Yeah. What are a few things that businesses can take away today to implement?
A couple of things. I think, number one, understanding the media habits of these emerging audiences, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The second is really more of a strategic orientation in terms of how they think about their product, the evolution of their product, and by that I mean I'm not talking about the thread count of the linen, I'm talking about what the experience is, and the influence of design, the influence of social interaction, those kinds of things, and how that needs to roll up into branding. And here's the irony. As prices have become more transparent, brands have become more important. If you think about that for a minute, it's kind of an illogical conclusion. So if I can look at all the prices on a screen in a meta search engine and I can see 8 brands listed, one of the reasons why obviously a lot of brands do not want you going to these sites, right? So they do everything in their power to kind of keep you in brand.com. We've seen a huge transformation in terms of the role of online travel agencies. For example, you just think about your own booking behavior back in, probably 2008, 9, and 10 when we were going through this recession.
Oh,
you were spending, I
Much
don't mean
different.
you personally, everybody was spending a lot of time shopping online to get a better deal.
Absolutely.
Now you don't have to do that anymore. And now that transparency and this whole idea of looking at the intersection of that with branding has created a really interesting challenge for our business. And not just for distribution, but for margins. I mean, I'm sure the other people in the conference will speak to this, but the great margin eater in the hotel business has been the internet. And it's because of transparency. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you speaking with us, and I know that you certainly have a lot to talk about as far as travel trends are concerned and ways that businesses can, turn things around.
If
reinvent.
they show up here in a few minutes, I'll guarantee them a couple of new ideas that will make them more money. That's the idea.
That's the bottom line for everybody.
Right.
Exactly. Very right. Okay, Peter, thank you so much for
My
being
pleasure.
here.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us at the HX studio. We'll see you next time.